70% of US workers either hate their job or are mentally checked out. While it's hard to get an accurate number of exactly how many people dislike their job, we take it as a fact that more than half of the people hate it, and that's just the way it is. But I don't think it has to be like that. So if you have a soul-sucking 9-to-5 job, this video is for you. And this video is not going to tell you how to love your job, but rather how to escape it by drastically reducing your workload while still keeping people happy. And to do this, we will follow 3 parts. Let's call it the Trident strategy. And if followed, then you'll be presented with 2 paths. The first path you can take, which I did, is picking up a second or third full-time job, becoming overemployed. Now, I worked 3 jobs for 4 years, and this will become an option only if you can reduce that workload. But even if you don't want to become overemployed, there's a second path. And this is the one where you just coast along, doing what you're doing, putting in way less time to free up more of your day to do what you actually want to do, and not coming home completely exhausted and sitting in front of the TV all day. So let's get into it. Part 1. You've played the game, you went to school, you got the job, and now you're thinking, this is it? You go to meetings that are for setting up other meetings, doing useless work, spending many hours a day on your email. You're underwhelmed. The pay is probably not what you want it to be, and you're too afraid to leave your job because people are saying that the job market is not great. So you're stuck. Now, I'm not anti-job or anti-9-to-5. I actually think the 9-to-5 can be a great instrument if used properly. But most of us feel grateful to have a 9-to-5, thus we overwork ourselves to an extreme degree and actually produce less. And most of us don't really hate our work, we just hate the bullshit that's attached to it. So let's try to minimize that. And the main thing to do that is to find the core of what we're hired to do. Now, if I was to ask you right now, what do you get paid to do? Most of us would have a canned answer that we use in all of our interviews, or we would start listing out tasks. We go to meetings, check our emails, manage the tickets in Jira, things like that. But we all know that we're not hired just to do tasks, we're hired to deliver outcomes. And most of the time, those tasks are completely out of line with the outcomes that we're driving. For instance, imagine you are a surgeon. You're making $500,000 a year, big money, but most of your day is spent managing emails, sitting in meetings, or trying to log in to the patient record system that's been broken since 2016. If asked, what do you get paid for? The answer is still surgery, but there's all this ancillary work on top of it that's not actually producing any value. Now zoom back out to your role. How much of it is actually busy work that's not producing any outcomes? Probably most of it. And worse off, this little evil thing happens when you start working. You're hired for your core piece of work, and then slowly over time, your scope increases and increases to the point where you're probably not even doing the core function anymore. And if you are, it's taking very little of your focus. And we take on these extra projects, teams, initiatives, because we feel indebted to our employer and want to prove to our company that we should stay employed because we owe it to them. Kind of backwards, right? So ideally, we need to scale back to that core workload. So how do we do it? Try asking this question. If my boss had to justify my paycheck with one sentence, what would they say? For instance, my main job titles were business analyst, project manager, and product owner / scrum master. A business analyst is all about getting clear insights delivered to the decision maker. A project manager is about delivering projects efficiently and within budget. And a scrum master is all about getting the right tickets in the sprint and making sure that the team is working through those tickets without getting stuck and hitting their metrics. Now, this is a wild simplification, but you can see the core workload starting to show its face. Now, it doesn't really matter what getting your boss to actually tell you the answer is the most important part. I know at every single job that I had, I would go to my boss with a piece of paper and tell them to write out exactly what I should be doing to provide the most value for the company. And they'll usually meet this with open arms and give you a list of exactly what you should be doing. Then you can take that list, and whenever someone comes to you with any other projects, initiatives, tasks, you can tell them no, because it's not in your core workload. Everything else is optional if it's not on that list. Random Slack message comes in asking you to do something. Sorry, I'm heads down on this list. Extra task, I'd love to, but I'm at capacity. Even if it's a tiny task that you know that you can do without sweating, we need to reframe it. If it's not on that list, we're not doing it. And eventually this creates a self-fulfilling cycle where people actually end up valuing your time more. See, they know that you're busy, so they will only come to you with the things that are exactly on your list. If not, they will circumvent you and go to other people. And this is actually what you can do while you're saying no. Instead of just saying no, you can say no, but I know a person that can help you and probably do it better than I can. And then, because you're recommending them a next step, you'll be seen as helpful even though you've done practically nothing. And even better, next time they have that problem, instead of going to you, they'll immediately go to the person that you recommended. So just doing that alone should cut all the periphery work out and give us the space and the time to just work on exactly what we're hired for, which ideally should be something that we're good at, which means that we're able to deliver it way faster than people recommend. But just because of that, we need to throttle our workload a little bit. Let's say you can do a task in 2 hours. Instead of delivering it as soon as you're done, sit on it for a few days. Once people start asking for it, then you can deliver it. And go even a step further, every task that you're assigned, ask for a specific deadline. Most of the time we assume it's ASAP, I need to do this immediately, but that's not usually the case. Normally, it can wait. So we need to figure out exactly how long it can wait and start to gauge it to give us more time flexibility. We're throttling our workload back to the bare minimum and specifically trying to find that line where we're not an overperformer nor an underperformer, but we're doing exactly what we're asked for. See, we know that promotions are largely a scam. They disproportionately add the workload for the pay that we are getting. So if we can find that middle line and toe that line perfectly, this will reduce the amount of work we're doing dramatically. But specifically to do that, we need to assess how we're spending our time currently. And that's part 2. So knowing what our real job is gives us a target, but now we need to collect more data. See, we all roughly have 16 hours in our day outside of our sleep, and generally people have no idea how they're spending that time. Even if they think they know, if they were actually to list it out, they would probably be off by an order of magnitude. And specifically to scale back that workload, we need to understand where the fluff is. What are we doing that is wasting our time? And what are those tasks we're doing that disproportionately produce results? So I want you to take a day and a piece of paper or a notepad file on your computer or on your phone and start to list out exactly what you do throughout the day. Now, I like to do it on a field notebook. It's small enough where it's not cumbersome, I can keep it in my pocket and it doesn't get in the way. And there's also just something satisfying about handwriting. So let's say you wake up at 9:31, write it down. Then you're in the bathroom, write down how long it took. Then you make breakfast and you start work and start to list the tasks and exactly what you do. So after we're done with a day or a week, we want to review this list and highlight the obvious spots where we're seeing this waste. What tasks or activities are neither recharging you nor pushing you forward? We like to say that we don't have time for things, but that's usually because our day is either filled with waste or we're just not tracking our time at all. Our time is just falling through the cracks of life, but if we start tracking it, we can close those gaps and make sure that it's not escaping. And this is also important because it takes us outside of the scope of just our work day and lets us see the entire day. What are we doing after work? What are we doing before work? And when we understand how we're spending our time, we can start to optimize the things that are disproportionately producing the results. Probably heard of the 80-20 rule. I've talked about it a million times along with other people, but this is the important principle. What are those tasks that are producing 80% of the results, but only taking 20% of the time? If we can identify them and then do more of them throughout the day, then obviously our results will multiply. And for the opposite, if we can find those tasks that are taking 80% of our time but producing next to no results and minimize those, then our productivity will also increase. So by doing both, you're producing in orders of magnitude more, particularly than the people who are not tracking at all. Then if we really want to optimize, we can take it a step further and use a color coding. 3 different colors, green, yellow, and red. For tasks that are green, these are the ones that give us energy back. The things that we actually enjoy doing that we're good at. this is where most of our time should be spent. The yellow is usually busy work that we have to do that doesn't exactly energize us but doesn't deplete our energy. And then the red, these are the soul-sucking tasks that make our job miserable. It doesn't align with our key skill set, and these are usually things that we push off till the absolute last minute until we're forced to do them. And ideally, this will start to reveal patterns. Usually, we don't hate our jobs, we've just been doing too many of those red tasks. You just hate going to the 10 a.m. meeting where Mark keeps nagging you and pushing deadlines down your throat. And for meetings specifically, a vast majority of them are a giant waste of time. This all spurred from when I was working in my second job, and there was just one of these Friday meetings where it was a sync up. It was usually 30 minutes long, but it would always run over. And this day, I just didn't feel like going. I was in an Uber going to the airport. I just could not find the willpower to join this meeting. I was about to fly off to Argentina to test if I wanted to live there, and my mind was elsewhere. So a couple minutes before the meeting, I just sent out an email listing out everything that I would have said on the meeting. At the end of the email, I just said, if you have any questions, send me a Slack or an email. And guess what? Nobody said anything. No messages came in, no emails. So then every week I just started doing that, telling people that I was too busy and sending them an update. Now maybe once every other month people asked me to join the call because they had a specific question, or I'd get an email afterwards, but this reduced my time spent in meetings from, let's say, 2 hours a month with a weekly meeting down to only 1 or even a half hour. So now, since you've been tracking your time, you start to value your time more and scrutinize where we're wasting time. So any half hour here makes a giant difference. Tim Ferriss has this beautiful quote: being busy is a form of laziness, lazy thinking and indiscriminate action. And once you start to see how filled with fat your calendar is, you will start to gain back your time, and each minute of time you gain back should be thought of as a minute of freedom. Now, part 3. So now we've done 2 things. First off, we've identified the core functions of our job and stripped back what we are doing down to that core function. And then we've started to track our time to see what was falling through the cracks and where we were wasting this time. And now we have the 2 paths that open up. Do we want to stay at our job and coast, or do we want to add a second, third, fourth job onto it to drastically increase our income while still probably working less than we were initially working in the beginning? Either way, we're building a life with more autonomy, mastery, and purpose. And those 3 things have been proven to be what gives us satisfaction at our job. So let's start with the first path of just coasting. This is a close relative of quiet quitting, but instead of doing nothing, we're doing the bare minimum. It's intentional coasting. And the goal is simple: do less, keep getting paid, and don't get fired. And whether you're remote, hybrid, or stuck in a cubicle, there's a few steps that are the same between all of them. The first step is being unremarkable. We don't want to be the MVP. As I said before, we want to toe the line. We don't want to be remarkable nor unremarkable. If we can blend into the shadows of the middle, that is perfect. And step 2 is to anchor your week or your days around high visibility tasks. This is to make it so if anyone asks you what you are doing, you have a clear answer. And step 3 is to start to give yourself a little more autonomy. Don't beg someone for flexibility, design for it. Move recurring meetings to the morning or to the afternoon to free up a solid work block. You can do everything that you need to do in a week in a day. See, too many times our day is segmented with only 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here. If we can give ourselves a couple hours of head down work time, then we're able to move mountains. And the key to this is to get really good at documentation. The better you are at documentation, the fewer meetings will be needed and the follow-up questions will shrink. See, those weekly sync-up meetings can end up just being emails, freeing up time for that head-down work. And once people see that you can still produce the results without the chaos, then usually they'll stop micromanaging you. Now, the hardest part is to find purpose within this job that you've scaled back. And what I found is it usually comes from outside of work. So now that your job isn't leaving you completely empty at the end of the day, pick up a new hobby or something that fills your bucket and keeps you entertained, because your job is not going to do that anymore. Or let's say you still want to get it from your job, then focus on getting really good at one thing. Maybe it's mentoring someone, maybe it's creating very good slides. It usually doesn't take that much effort to be better than the average person, and once people know that you're good at it, then you can start to pivot your workload towards something that you're actually good at. Okay, that's good and all, but what if we want to take the second, more exciting path, becoming overemployed? Yes, it's possible, yes, it's legal, and yes, I did it for 4 years. I did 3 jobs, still within the same 40-hour work week. If you have followed the first 2 parts, then you have reduced your workload down to the bare minimum, which should free up enough time and energy to take on that second, third, or 4th job. And how do you pull it off without getting caught? Well, the first step when you onboard that second job is to set those expectations at the rock bottom. You now know how to toe the line at the first job, so you need to quickly find the line at the second, which usually means underproducing until people to tell you to speed up, and then it's a game of cat and mouse to find what that bar is. And you'd be surprised how low people's expectations are. And then another huge benefit that I should have mentioned earlier is to block off your calendar with fake meetings. If you know you're going to be heads down on a task, or you just don't feel like doing anything at that time of the day, plop a meeting in, and usually nobody will know the difference. And when it comes to being overemployed, choosing a boring bureaucratic company is always better. The bigger, the better, and the more boring, the better. And if you want to know more about exactly how I did it, check out this video where I walk through my exact stealth strategy of how I turned my regular 9-to-5 into 3 jobs. And even if you don't want a second job, as soon as the possibility opens itself up, you start to think about everything differently. You stop tolerating toxic bosses, you stop being desperate, you stop defining yourself by only your work, and you finally realize that you were never trapped. So whether your goal is to double your income or just have more energy after work to do the things that fill your cup, it's very simple. Cut the fluff from your work, guard your time, say no, and do the bare minimum. Do less, but do it better. And when people ask you why they're less stressed at work, just tell them that you found what you were hired to do, and then do just that and nothing more. And tell them if they'd like to do the same, to subscribe to this channel. Plenty more coming. Thanks for watching.